Hi friends, this is Mrs. Mapula and this is a tutorial showing you how to do color mixing based off the book Mouse Paint. So here in front of me you can see my supplies. I have a plate with the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. Notice there's a little bit of space between each of them. We also have a piece of paper, pencil or Sharpie, both preferably. We have a cup of water, paintbrush, napkin, and something to protect the table. We're going to start by using our paper first. So go ahead and grab that pencil. I'm going to be using a Sharpie just so I can show you what it will look like. It'll stand out nicely while I'm drawing along with you. But I prefer my friends to use a pencil so that they can see their lines, erase and correct any mistakes. And feel free to then go over your lines with a Sharpie after. So to get started on your paper, we are going to start with our first mouse. We're going to have 3 total mice on here, but we're going to start with our first one. And we're going to do that by kind of near the center of the paper, not quite, but near the center of the paper, just above it. We are going to start with kind of this V shape. Notice it's not very sharp, right? It's a little bit rounded, sort of. But we have this V shape. From this V shape, we're going to add the body of the mouse. Just like that. Notice the size. Notice the area that I've drawn this mice in. Once I'm satisfied with my mice, whether I need to erase and fix my lines, or then go in and darken the lines if I like it, I can do that. Then we are going to move on to our second mouse, but notice a little bit of space between the two of them. I'm going to start with that similar kind of V shape towards the center of the paper. Then I'm going to draw in the rest of the body. If I need to erase and fix any lines, I can do that. Or then I can go in and darken my lines if I'm satisfied. After that, we have one more mouse for a total of 3. We have a little bit of space between each of them, once again, with that V shape kind of pointing towards the center. Once I'm satisfied with my lines, I can then go in and darken those lines a bit. Now, we are going to go into each of these mice and we're going to add some features. We're going to add a nose, we're going to add eyes, ears, tail. So let's get started with a nose on each of the mice. Just a circular shape right in the front towards the center of each body. Then we're going to go in with the eyes and the ears. So in each one, I'm going to add 2 dots. And above the 2 dots, I'm going to add these curved lines to represent kind of the U shape almost, to represent the ears. I'm going to do that to each of them. Now, once I've done that to each of my mice, the last thing we're going to be drawing is these splatters of paint between each of them, these pools of paint. Okay, so you're going to add the tail, that's the last part of the feature of the mice, and then we're going to add the pools of paint. For the pools of paint, it does not have to be an exact shape similar to mine. So you can just kind of see how Mrs. Mapula does it, and then you can go in and add your own kind of paint blob that you'd like. So don't feel like it has to be exactly the same. Just kind of have these in and out curved lines that come back together. I'm going to do that between each of the mice. I have another pool of paint. And then I have one more. Now, once you have your pools of paint, feel free to pause the video and take some time to outline yours if you did yours in pencil and you'd like to go over it with a Sharpie or a pen. If not, we're just going to continue on. We want to go ahead and get our paint supplies ready. We're going to start with our primary colors of paint. So we're going to start with our red, yellow, and blue, and it's really important that when we paint, that we paint in the same spots that Mrs. Mapula is, right? So those paint splatters are going to represent, or those paint blobs are going to represent those colors between the primary colors. So we're going to get to that color mixing as well. So we're going to start with our yellow on our first mouse. So I have my yellow paint, and in my paint I've added a little bit of water. In my yellow I added just a little too much, so you don't want it quite this wet. But I added a little water, and what that does is it allows me, when I add the paint inside of my mice, it allows me to paint without actually completely covering over the eyes and the ears, right? So I can cover inside of it, but it doesn't hide or take away those eyes and ears. So that's why I've added a little water. Feel free to add a little bit of water to your paint as well. Like I said, not quite as much as Miss Mapula accidentally added to her yellow, because you'll notice it starts to run just a little bit. But just a little bit's perfect. I want to try to stay inside the lines as much as possible inside of my mouse. Once I've kind of smoothed out my paint, then I'm going to clean my brush. And I need to make sure I clean my brush really, really, really well, because we don't want any yellow left on there. If there's yellow left on there when we go to our next color, it's going to go ahead and start mixing colors together. We don't want that just yet, okay? So once my brush is clean, I wipe it on my paper towel to make sure. I'm then going to move into my blue paint, okay? So moving into my blue paint. So let's go ahead and get that red on there. Let's start with red next. So I got my red. I've added a little touch of water to it. Much better, right? And then I'm going to fill in the next mouse with my red paint. So once I've added my red paint, I'm going to smooth it over, add a touch of water if I need to, so it doesn't cover over the eyes and the ears while I'm painting. Once I've used my red and I smooth it out, I'm going to clean my brush really, really well again. And we are then going to use our blue. Now it's the time for blue, right? And we're going to fill in our third or last mouse with the blue paint. You can see as I'm painting the blue mouse that because I added just a touch too much water to my yellow, that it's starting to kind of run over into my blue paint on my plate, right? So that's why you want to be careful not to add a little too much water, right? It's going to start moving around on your plate some too. But that's okay because we're actually going to mix them together, right? So once I've finished my blue mouse, I'm then going to take my yellow and my blue paint on my plate, and I'm going to mix them together in between. And I'm going to get what? Green. So we will get our green. So here you can see my very runny yellow. But I'm going to take some of my blue, put it in between where that yellow is already starting to run. I'm going to mix it and it's going to start to create that green. Now our greens might look a little bit different depending on the quality and type of paint that we have. Also depends on how much yellow versus blue you get. But as long as you're getting a shaded green, that is fine. Once I've mixed that together, I can start to fill that in my paint blob in between. So I'm just going to fill that in. You can notice I'm kind of stirring it just because mine was so runny. You can see them trying to continue to come together on the plate. I'm just kind of mixing as I blend it in. That's fine too if you need it. Now, once I've filled in that paint blob, I'm going to clean my brush and go on to the next two colors that we will be mixing together. So I'm just blending in this green. And now I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to get a bit of blue that's still clean without that green in it, right? If you're a friend who yours just accidentally got a little too blended, you can always put another touch of clean blue down next to your red. So on my plate, between my blue and my red, I'm just kind of getting a little bit of blue ready. And then I'm going to take my brush on one side of my red, I'm going to scoop it, and then I'm going to start to blend it with my blue. And I'm starting to get what? Purple. So I'm creating my purple. I noticed that it's a bit thick, so I might add a little bit of water to mine. And then we're going to add it to our paint blob, making sure we place it between the red and blue mouse. I'm going to make sure we keep those orders and those colors in the right place. I'm going to try to get this done a little more quickly, so we move on to our last color. Last color mixing after this. Okay, once I kind of smooth this out, blended this in just a little bit, I'm going to clean my brush, and then we have our last two colors we're mixing together, our yellow and our red. I'm going to get just a touch more fresh yellow just because my yellow was a little bit too watered down. It's got a little bit too much blue, already have green going on. So if you're a friend who's in a similar situation, no, it's okay. So I'm just grabbing a little bit more yellow right now. That's what I'm doing to the side of the paper. And then I'm going to take some of my clean red and turn it around so you can see it. So a little bit of clean red. I'm going to mix it in that fresh yellow I put down. I'm going to add a touch of water. And we are getting what? We're starting to get that orange on our plate. Now, once we are satisfied with our orange, we can then start to put it down in our last blob. And we will be finished, friends. So close. Now, as we're putting down our last paint blob, it's important to remember what we've learned today. We've learned that our primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. Then if we take any two of those primary colors and mix them together, we have a new color, and that is called secondary color. So red and yellow make orange. Notice the orange is in between. Yellow and blue make green. And red and blue make purple. Friends, you have done an amazing job, and I'm so proud of you, and I cannot wait to see yours. Great job.